So, Amber, what did you do before you had kids?
I slept.
Oh my gosh, that's what I wrote. We're back.
Da-ding.
Da-ding.
Ba-doo.
Okay. I finished my sentences. I drank coffee hot. And I didn't walk around all day saying, what?
What?
And no one answered me. Mommy, what?
What?
Silence.
When you want to leave the house, you just put on your shoes and you go. And when you want to watch TV, you sit down and you turn on the TV and you watch.
Right.
You went through all these scenarios and I was like, what a simpler time it was.
It's like Little House on the Prairie.
It was like when you wanted to eat, you ate.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, yeah. That's what it was like before I had kids. But
That is so funny you say that because like the putting on the shoes, we literally went to church last week and we got there. We go to church 30 minutes away. We got there and we go, Kenan, where are your shoes? She went to Sunday school barefoot. And she was not the only kid that day. That's what was so funny. There were two of them.
You were like, you mom, we are
We
friends.
also negotiated leaving her pet caterpillar outside and not bringing it into church.
Oh my goodness.
Allowing it to come to church was a whole nother conversation.
Uh-huh.
But yes, it used to be so simple times.
Simple times
Simple
before
times.
kids. What I actually did before I had kids was I was a teacher. I went to Capital University here in Columbus and got my degree in art education. Then I moved down to Cincinnati when I was dating my husband, Danny. And then I went to UC and got not my master's because I was lazy. To be perfectly
You're like
honest.
the least lazy person I've ever met.
I was lazy when it came to going to college again. I went and got my endorsement to teach ESL, which is English Second Language.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was a nanny that time. I was a full-time nanny for a family of 3. They lived across the river in Kentucky, and we lived in Cincinnati on the river. And I nannied full-time for them for over a year. Those kids, oh my gosh, they look so old now. I see them on Facebook, and I feel really old because I started when the little boy was 10 months old, and now he's 10. And I was like, oh. So I got my endorsement at the University of Cincinnati, and then when Danny and I moved, then I got my first teaching job down in Cincinnati at Mount Healthy High School, west side of Cincinnati. That was interesting. I taught high school art and 7th and 8th grade art. So I taught ceramics, I taught intro to drawing, I taught just a general 8th grade art class, and I can't remember what the other one I was. But anyways, I did that for 2 years, and then we moved back to Columbus, and I taught at Focus North High School, which is a charter school here in Columbus, for a couple years, and I taught ESL there, which I much preferred. It was really fun. I was still in high school, so I got to work with a lot of kids who were, the main populations, I think, in the Columbus area were kids from Somalia, Nepal. I had some in Europe, but mostly Somalian, and it was just so much fun working with those kids. They really valued education. They wanted to learn English. They wanted a degree to be able to get a career and start a life here in the U.S. And it was so fun hearing their stories. So yeah, I taught in total for 5 years, and then I was teaching when I had Kai in December. Was on maternity leave. I went back to finish out the school year for like 2 or 3 months when Kai was little, and then I never went back to teaching after that. I stayed home with Kai. And that's when I decided I was not going to teach anymore because it was not feasible for Kai's schedule with appointments and therapies, and I ended up starting my own business. And I knew I wanted to still work, and that's when I figured out the entrepreneur life was the life for me. So
yes,
that's when that all started, and becoming a parent. So
that's awesome.
What did you do, Chelsea, before you had kids?
Oh gosh. So for those of you that don't know, I grew up in Vermont, and when I went to college, Smith College in Massachusetts. It's a small private women's college, and played field hockey there. But my junior year, everybody goes abroad, and I had applied and been accepted to study in Glasgow at the art school there. I've got a studio art degree, artist like Amber too. And instead of going to Glasgow, one of my brothers had been really sick, and I thought, I better stay in the States, but I want to do something different, just in case I need to get home quickly. And I'm glad I did, because I did need to get home quickly, and he's fine now, but I was very glad that I stayed. So I designed my own program at the Savannah College of Art and Design, and I went there, and I studied costume design and drawing and painting, and just absolutely loved it. So much so that I went back to Smith, graduated, and then went back to Savannah and started working with Abercrombie & Fitch and Hollister companies down there, just in stores. That's how I got my foot into retail, because I learned very quickly that my art degree was just a really nice piece of paper, very expensive piece of paper.
I can relate.
Yeah. And I'm not sad about it. I learned a lot.
Right.
I loved my education, but now I look back and I'm like, ooh, there were other ways to have done this.
Absolutely.
And then to end up in retail.
Right.
But it ended up being a great route for me, because I experienced a lot of different, I saw it as like, let's get my foot in the door with management. I'm going to learn all of these people skills, all these business skills. And I always had that entrepreneurial spirit as well. So years later, I had lived about 8 different places, was opening and recruiting for stores, and found myself living in Connecticut. I lived in South Carolina, Georgia, ended up in Connecticut. And that's when I met my husband, Blake. Wanted his job. He leveraged that to get a date. Here we are today. And then he and I started a company. So we both quit Abercrombie. We started a company called Live the Dream, and we did graphic and t-shirt apparel. We interviewed athletes, Olympians all over the country, and we traveled a ton. Oh yeah. How
fun.
Yeah, it was so cool. But it was very expensive. Right. And people ask me all the time too, or especially they ask Blake, because he's a graphic designer. Right. You know, what advice do you have on starting a t-shirt company? We're like, don't do it. Don't do it. It's so expensive. Right. And it was not sustainable, but it was really fun, and it gave us an opportunity to travel and learn a lot of personal development skills along the way. Right. We started another e-commerce business, which we still run today, and then along the way, we ended up working in retail again together for a veteran-owned apparel company here in Columbus, which was so fun. Helped them get off the ground, and they're not around anymore, but it was really fun to be a part of a startup and experience that culture. But that's also when I got pregnant with Kenan, and intended to continue working from home, but with all of her needs, it made more sense for me to be a primary caretaker, and I was so excited to just be able to be in the position where I could walk away and just take care of her. So that's what I did before kids.
Wow, look at all the things we did before we had children.
It's true, we did.
It's so much.
But we've done so much since having them.
This is true.
I wouldn't trade them for the world.
Oh, heck no.
Yeah.
No way.
It's a different place of life now.
Different place of life, for sure.
Let's do something fun here. Amber, now this was your question, so I'm honestly like tiny bit concerned that you do have this. Did you ever have a crush on a cartoon character?
I did.
Okay. Let's hear all about it.
It was Aladdin, like the original Disney Aladdin. It's like, you know, an animated person at least. It's not like I had a crush on a dog. But I would watch that movie all the time, and I always thought he was so cute, and I was just like, oh, Aladdin. I would pretend like I was Jasmine, like flying around with him. Oh man,
that's really cute.
But you know that I didn't really like go and like look for a real life Aladdin when I got older. I guess
he does have dark hair.
He does have dark hair and a dark complexion.
Yeah,
maybe he is.
So it's funny that you say that, because you did go that direction.
Yeah, I was like, maybe not fully, like but in the general vicinity.
Yeah.
Of that part of the world. I knew what I wanted.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm just not realizing that. Like,
it's really funny. There's that real trend that was going around of like, show me your childhood crush, your celebrity crush, and then who you married. Right. Okay, so I did not have a cartoon crush, but I wasn't thinking about animated, and I still don't think there was one. But I was raised on like And I'm a little bit older than Amber. So it was like Looney Tunes and Garfield, and like Elmer Fudd just did not my type.
I mean, how could he not be?
That's all I had. And we didn't have a lot of TV back then. It was like PBS or like you go to the grandparents to watch Nickelodeon on a timer, like the time. So I did not have those, but I think when I was old enough to like have a crush, like really understand that, Tiger Beats magazines were all the rage.
Oh yes.
And I would spend my hard-earned paper route money on a copy of Tiger Beats and tear out my pictures of JTT, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, for any of you that don't know. And he was all over my walls and all over my Trapper Keeper. And what's funny is that trend was going around on Reels, and I was like, oh my gosh, my husband does look like JTT. And so I looked back at like his teenage photos and did a comparison between Blake and Jonathan Taylor Thomas around like 20 years old. I married him.
You married him?
Yeah.
She married her teenage crush.
Yeah, I did. So it worked out. So not a cartoon character, although he did do the voice for Simba.
See,
and I did always love Simba.
So she had a crush on Simba, is what we're trying to say here.
There you go. I came full circle.
Full circle, Chelsea's cartoon crush, Simba.
I loved me some Simba.
Isn't it funny that we always hung all of our posters, like we cut them out of magazines to tape them on our walls?
Yes. Who else did you have?
Paul Walker.
Oh, Paul Walker.
R.I.P. Paul. I loved him.
Yeah.
I had so many pictures and posters of Paul Walker on my walls.
Yeah, that was fun.
He's a good one for sure. I was also an NSYNC fan, so I had, Justin Timberlake for sure. But
yeah, there was always the NSYNC Backstreet Boys battle and NSYNC for sure.
Heck yeah. Ooh, that's why we were friends. Sorry for my other friends that are watching that were in college and they all been to like all the Backstreet Boy reunion concerts and stuff. And I was like, I would go. But it's not the same. So NSYNC, come back around, do a concert so we can go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
That'd be amazing.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of the trends that are back. I'm like, I lived through that. Don't do it. I look at those pictures and they didn't work.
The butterfly clips.
Can
you get it with those?
Cute. When you're little, I think they're adorable. But no,
I don't know if I can do that now.
No,
again.
I'm not on it. I don't like the spaghetti straps are back and the square necks. Like
choker
they're
necklaces. What? Plastic?
If you are wearing these, you will look back
and you will
regret it.
Why did I
learn
do that?
nothing else from this. 90s trends were never good. Don't do them.
Those platform shoes that you're wearing right now?
Yeah. And honestly, if you're going to go all in, just get a Trapper Keeper too. Because you can't do 80s and 90s without a really good neon Trapper Keeper.
Yep. I mean, I'm sure they're
Lisa
out there.
Frank stickers. Those are not back, by the way. If somebody finds those, you can send them to me.
I mean, that'd be the one thing I'd be okay with it coming back.
I think
like
Lisa
the little
Frank
like cats, like little cute
purple
little
horses.
purple horses. Yes. Lisa Frank.
Yeah.
Hit us up. Send us some of those.
Absolutely. I'll take some Lisa Frank.
Right.